Since the days of J.R.R. Tolkien, fantasy storytelling and epic world-building have been intertwined. These locales are often alien as a way of removing the audience from the real world, but they also maintain a certain degree of practicality and believability. Final Fantasy worlds run the gamut, drawing inspiration from ancient times and visions of the distant future, as well as from countless cultures all over the world. The shining showcase for most of these fictitious lands are great cities housing the seats of power and corruption. And this series has given us a ton of fascinating urban expanses to explore. My name is Drew Kreisman. I am one half of the Final Fantasy Weekly podcast, and these are my picks for the top 10 cities in the Final Fantasy multiverse. Note, once again, I'm being literal with the definition. Towns, villages, towers, and maybe even castles all get their own lists. Okay, number 10. Academia, from Final Fantasy XIII-2 and Lightning Returns. It can be difficult to compose a believable futuristic dystopian metropolis and not come off like a Blade Runner clone, but there is something decidedly different about Academia. Sure, it might not seem totally out of place in Star Wars next to something like Coruscant, and I was tempted to go with Cocoon from the first game of the trilogy, which has similar appeal. But even with my limited experience with 13-2, I can feel the unique wonder of this place. It's tough to get into some of the why without getting into spoilers, but suffice it to say it's also intriguing to see the way that this city changes over time. Number 9. The City That Never Was, from Kingdom Hearts 2. Speaking of spoilers, this is going to be a tough one to navigate. For those who have played the game, you will understand the storyline and thematic importance of this shadowy place and the impact of seeing it for the first time. Its mere existence is a dramatic tonal shift and a shove into one of the most incredible endgame segments in gaming history. Kingdom Hearts as an entire franchise takes a turn upon the introduction of the city that never was. Number 8. Vector, from Final Fantasy VI. Approaching Vector under cover of night on the recently acquired Blackjack is a cinematic entrance to the belly of the beast. Slowly, the city of metal and Magitech looms over the horizon, floodlights searching the sky for monsters and rebels. Like Red Squadron making their trench run, or Dr. Jones coming face to face with Hitler, the Returners deliberately pierce the heart of Imperial fascism on their quest to save the world. A steampunk nightmare of mangled industry that hides grotesque secrets just beneath the surface, the capital city of the Empire of Final Fantasy VI is memorable, but definitely not inviting. Number 7. Kugane, from Final Fantasy XIV. On the opposite end of the spectrum, we have Kugane from the Stormblood expansion of Final Fantasy XIV. With all apologies to the magnificent Ishgard of the North and its majestic stone spires and remarkably intriguing societal structure, we go across the sea to Kugane for our pick from 14. Please remember I am still in Stormblood, and I'm sorry. Still, just wander around this place and tell me you couldn't spend your days walking by lantern light along the riverbanks. It is peaceful and serene, while also being incredibly easy to navigate, especially compared to some cities in Eorzea. They form and function. Number 6. Buerba, Final Fantasy XII. Admittedly, I'm a bit of a sucker for flying magical realms. Shout out to the Kingdom of Zeal from Chrono Trigger, but Buerba is perhaps the most beautiful and majestic among them all. The starting city of Final Fantasy XII, Rabanastre, is also pretty spectacular, but it doesn't fly through the clouds, so yeah. Whether engaging in mid-air, deep-ground political intrigue or questing through the nearby mines, it's hard not to marvel at the splendor here. The enormous crystals that oversee all the hustle and bustle, and the castle that is the home of the Marquis Ondor, are truly breathtaking. Even the name Buerba is satisfyingly cool. Number 5, Zanarkand from Final Fantasy X. Sure is something, isn't it? There's a reason the protagonist of Final Fantasy X won't stop talking about showing off his hometown. I mean, check this place out. Sweeping cityscapes may not be everyone's cup of tea, but how about a location right on the water? A state-of-the-art blitzball stadium and all the conveniences you could possibly imagine. The world of Spira is often praised for steering away from the oft-used aesthetics of medieval Europe or feudal Japan, and much of that unique spirit is present in Zanarkand as well, setting it apart from the pack. Luca is also something to see, especially upon first arrival, but the City of Dreams is essentially a character in this story, and is one of the most thematically important places in franchise history. Number 4, Esthar from Final Fantasy VIII. Again, even talking about this city is kind of spoilery, so skip ahead if you don't want this part of Final Fantasy VIII ruined for you, but also, how cool is it that the existence of an entire city is a spoiler? Final Fantasy is often about amassing a collection of memorable moments, and the second you realize that Esthar has stood invisible this whole time as part of a grander conspiracy is one of those moments. The architecture and transport systems, including their spaceports, are all endlessly intriguing to look at and wonder upon. It almost feels like you've traveled to a completely different planet or place in time. Like all the others on this list, Esthar is lovely to look at, but it also carries extraordinary weight on the stories and themes of the game. Number 3, Lindblum of Final Fantasy IX. Massive apologies to Alexandria, which is overflowing with charm and features some of the best town music Nobuo Uematsu has ever written, which is saying something, but I had to go with Lindblum here. Its skies are filled with classic airships coasting above old-world buildings. Final Fantasy combination of magic and technology keeps it all running like clockwork. An amalgamation of ideas from across the real world and the series itself, Lindblum encapsulates just about everything we've come to expect from the brilliant locales of Final Fantasy. Number 2, Altissia from Final Fantasy XV. Magical Venice? Yes, please? Insomnia and Lindblum both deserve shoutouts for eye-catching design, but it's hard to top the sheer beauty of Altissia. You arrive by boat, navigate the canals through the city, take in the grand and intricate architecture, and if you're like me, you do it with your jaw firmly planted on the floor. The pure magic of it all is staggering. Important and emotional events happen here that sear this place into our memories and hearts, but it is also the one on the list that is just so obviously appealing on the surface. I mean, just look at it! And number 1, Midgar of Final Fantasy VII. Midgar is a perfectly designed metaphor for the potential corruption of capitalism and industrialism. It is a singular idea of sheer genius, whereby the well-off literally live above those they consider inferior, hoarding all the resources, leaving the less-off to toil in the slums. Unlike several other cities on this list, Midgar would be a brutal place to live, but as a literary concept that shows us a functional system based on a troubling ideology, it's one of the best written pieces of world building in gaming history. The plates, the reactors, the giant ego tower, the playground, wall market, just about everything that makes up this city is iconic and oppressive. And yet, hope festers here and can grow into an avalanche. This is everything Final Fantasy is about. Thank you for watching and listening to Final Fantasy piano music, Kane Highwind 27, Your Noble Truths, Zachary Messias, and Aurencus for the music. And as always, a huge shout out to our Patreon subscribers. You can subscribe for as little as $1 and get all kinds of Final Fantasy content, including over 90 in-depth podcasts over at patreon.com/ffweekly. If you're interested in other nerdy talk like Lord of the Rings, Star Wars, MCU, DCEU, and more, check out patreon.com/DCProductions. Don't forget to like and subscribe down below to our channel and to all the contributors who help make it possible.